And I'm just going to do a quick introduction really quick. My name is Allison Bowman. I am the Administrative Assistant for the Arts Council of Johnson County. And this is our Creative Conversation series. And for anyone who is watching right now, I just want to say thank you. And I'll introduce our guests today. We have Stephen Wallace Pruitt and Mary Settle Pruitt here with us. And they are
Stephen.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification. And they are local filmmakers, and I'm super excited to hear about your story. So do one or both of you want to start off by just kind of giving us a background on how you came to be filmmakers?
I think Steve needs to do that, since actually it originated with him.
Okay.
Okay. Well, where does one begin on such an exciting story? Well, basically, it's a midlife crisis run amok. And when we moved here to Kansas City in 2001, it wasn't long after that I wanted to build a recording studio in the basement to record some of my music. I'd been in rock groups in college and in high school, but it bothered me that we never made, the real album. So when we were at the album pretty far along, decided we wanted to make a music video. One thing led to another, and I decided it wasn't music I really wanted to do. It was movies.
Okay.
And I told Mary one day, I said, Mary, I want to make a movie next year. And she said, Steve, we don't know anything about making movies. I said, that's okay. We'll figure it out. We're smart people. We can do this. And everyone said, you don't know anything about making movies. It turns out we didn't know anything about making movies, but we went for it, and it worked out anyway.
That's awesome. I love that. Just curious to get my information straight. What was your first movie?
Mary, you want to deal with that?
Okay, our first movie was entitled Works in Progress.
Okay.
We are currently changing the name to the original name, which was Modern Heart, simply because we've had quite a bit of difficulty with people misunderstanding, thinking that the film actually is a work in progress, i.e. an unfinished film, as opposed to a finished film entitled Works in Progress. We actually got dinged from Netflix because of that, and also some of our film festivals. So that's one of those things you couldn't see. You know, even if you'd been in film, you might not have been able to.
No, it was a perfect title for the film, because it's about people imperfect along the way, kind of like Pilgrim's Progress sort of thing.
Sure.
It's a romantic comedy, a poignant romantic comedy, I like to say, and it's been less comedic than one would hope, given the issues that we've had to face. But nonetheless, we're changing the title to Modern Hearts, and hope to get it back up on Amazon here soon.
Awesome. So yeah, I will say I did watch that one, and I thought that was your first movie, but I couldn't be sure because it was so good. I was like blown away by how it was so witty and quirky. I loved it so much. So I hope it comes back to Amazon soon, because I think people should watch it.
I think everybody should watch it, but I have no self-interest involved here at all. Mary wrote most of the witty dialogue in that.
Okay.
Though I like to say, Mary writes, the script at one time, believe it or not, was 450 pages, and I said, we don't need all this, and so we just start chop. Do we need this? No. Do we need that? No. And eventually, I got rid of what was it I said? Mary wrote 3 times, wrote 3 scripts. We just needed one. And
well, and if I may interject, especially for those in your audience maybe that are contemplating going into film and they've never done anything like that, you do learn a lot as you just jump in. You also waste, I don't want to say waste, you expend a lot of energy on tasks that you will end up not seeing actually come to fruition.
Waste
but that
is the right word.
No, it is not waste, because it's a learning experience. I guarantee you, our second movie we were far more economical in our resources as far as time that we put, and we had a better understanding of how long a script should actually be.
Yeah, it was it was a
It was a learning process.
It was
a work in progress.
it was a work in progress. Maybe that's the
it.
problem.
That's it.
I'm actually looking at the poster here on my wall
It's true.
from the original title. But we love the film. I mean, it's a funny, witty, poignant film. Shocked that we made that film without ever been on a film set before. And almost everyone in the film was a first timer. I mean, we're talking first time cast, all but one was a first time crew member. Wow. And we pulled it off. So, I mean, that really was, it was amazing that it worked, but it did. And as Mary said, it was a romantic comedy that was neither romantic to make nor comedic to make. So
yeah.
That's another conversation.
Yeah. So when you were making that movie, you said you kind of were learning as you went. What were some of the biggest challenges that you ran into besides the script?
Well, actually, the big challenge was the script, and that was because we actually wrote originally when we would write sitting next to each other like this,
which is not a good idea.
Yeah, well, it just turned out to be a bad idea. You know, what do you mean she says that? No, he says this, and I mean, it was just like, it was not pleasant. So nowadays, when we write our scripts, Mary stays on the second floor of the house. I live here in the basement, and we email the files back and forth to each other so that we don't have to fight about it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
But as far as other things that I think, lessons that we learned, things that we didn't expect. First of all, when you're co-writing something, you have the feel that it belongs to both of you. However, when you get on set, you really can only have one director. And that was totally new for me, to not be sort of, equal partner. We've always done everything side by side, equally. And this was a definite departure. So that took some getting used to. And I would say I didn't really get used to it during the first film, but then I was ready for it for the second. And then the second thing is, I thought as far as crew was concerned and cast, I thought it was sufficient that everybody was there for their own reason. Everyone's here self-actualizing or exploring potentially a new profession. But in the end, that's not helpful. What's helpful is when everybody is there to make one excellent film. And so that's something that I learned as far as a producer.
Awesome. Yeah, I noticed that in some of the opening, I guess all of the opening credits, Mary, your name is as an executive producer. So I was kind of curious about that and how that works. So thank you for explaining it. Do you have, I kind of read an interview about you guys. Do you have kind of another behind the scenes job, Mary?
Okay, so this is
Mary does everything behind the scenes.
This is what I love about independent film is, you tell people that you're a filmmaker and they go, oh, how glamorous. No, actually, I'm the one that scrubs the toilets when we get into a new location, because I want our cast and crew to have really nice facilities, as nice as we possibly can. So I do paperwork. So I do all the paying, the writing of the checks.
This is why she's so popular, because she writes.
It's true. Yes. I also do craft services. So I make sure that everyone gets fed. And sometimes that goes well and sometimes it doesn't. And then I'm also, I do put together a production schedule. Now, obviously, that's something that I do with Steve, in tandem with him, because, but that in and of itself has its own challenges working together, because Steve has a tendency to underestimate the time it's going to take. And so I have to be able to, calculate that in without him realizing that I've calculated that in.
Yeah, basically, she'll ask me how long a scene will take. I'll say 5 hours. She basically squares it, Yeah. Oh, it looks like 25 for that scene.
No, actually, if I multiply 2.2, it's almost dead on.
Nice, got it all figured out.
Other things too. I mean, Mary is our location manager. I mean, she's always the one that deals with the location
that's
lenders. and runs ahead to make sure that everything is square when we're getting ready to go to the next scene. So I mean, she really is, and she wrangles with the IRS when we have difficulties on that front. But she really does all the stuff behind the scenes that is necessary to work on the business side of filmmaking.
Yeah, awesome.
I get the glory. But.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So what do you guys do when you're not making movies? Anything else?
Think about making other movies.
Yeah, it is interesting. This is a business, and it's more than a business though, because we do think about it quite a bit. I mean, if we're not working on a particular project, we're thinking about the next project, we're writing the next project. And Steve will tell you that whenever we're traveling, we'll go into any sort of a building, and immediately the first thing we start doing is scoping it out as a potential location for one of the films that we plan on doing in the future. And that's kind of a little different than it was before. Plus, we're always looking for people to be extras. So it's kind of always on our mind.
Yeah, it really is. Now, but before we began this adventure, and I still am a professor at UMKC in the Block School of Management. I'm a finance professor, and I've been there for 21 years and really enjoy it. Mary is the classic homemaker. He raised our two kids, and now it's she. When the girls graduated from high school, remember distinctly Mary coming to me and said, "Well, Steve, what do you want me to do now that the girls are graduated? Do you want me to get a job or something?" I said, "No, I want you to stay home and play with me." And so we've been playing with movies ever since.
Yeah, Steve has flexible time as a university professor,
right.
But not only does he teach, but he also does research. So that takes a bit of his time. Interestingly enough, all of those activities, with the exception of teaching, except during the Zoom pandemic era, take place in the basement. Had I known that, I would have looked for a walkout basement. But he's just always in the dark.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I am in the dark. Oh, that the beautiful light coming in is not a window, folks. It's actually a movie light.
Yes.
You know how to set the scene. So can you tell us a little bit about the movies that you have produced so far? We talked about Modern Hearts Works in Progress a little bit, but I also did watch Terminal, which is called Chasing Angel.
Right, we changed the name of it. That the first two films have been an economic disaster. I'll just be honest with you. If it could go wrong, it did go wrong with respect to the business side. I personally think Chasing Angel, which is formerly Terminal, but it's now on Amazon as Chasing Angel. I think it's the best thing ever made in Kansas City by indie filmmakers. It's a very special film. About a district attorney who is nearing the end of his life, and a streetwise young woman on the run from the law that he meets one day at the airport, and how each one changes the other person's life. It is an incredible story, I think. So much of it is actually from my past. Deals with my father's death, my adoption by my parents, my mother's dementia. It's all in that film, and it was amazing to make, and it took a long time to finish because I'd never done the editing or color or sound design before. So that was the first film when I truly took over every aspect of the film, and it was very difficult to learn that. But once I learned it, now we can finish them much more quickly. Terminal was Mary actually said the joke. She goes, when we were making Works in Progress, which was neither a romantic nor poignant, nor comedic to make, when I told her the next film was going to be Terminal, she was a little less than enthusiastic about it. And then after that, there was a delay of several years. We shot that in 2010, Terminal, and then we didn't shoot again for 6 years, and we made the film that is kind of made our name here in the area, which is called The Tree, which stars Kansas City acting legend Joycey Appel, and it was in her first leading role in a feature film. She was on the old soap opera The Guiding Light years ago, And she was so good in Terminal. She played an important role in Terminal. It was just like, we kept saying we need to write a movie for Joycey. And then one day it came to me, and it's actually a story about my mother and her best childhood friend. And it was just like, oh my gosh, we need to make this one. And it turned out really well, just getting rave reviews on Amazon. It's been our money maker so far. So after that, we shot again in 2018. That was the film The Land. And it's about a farmer and his wife that are facing difficult economic conditions and trying to keep the family farm from imploding during the not the pandemic as we know it, but through the farmer pandemic that occurred when land prices were collapsing. We were going to shoot again in 2020, but then the pandemic came. We were going to shoot in 2021, and the pandemic was still here. So now our next film will be shot, come hell or high water, in 2022, summer 2022.
Awesome. I'm very excited about that one. I read the script, and
what did you think, honestly?
oh, it made me cry. It gave me
chills. That's good.
All of the, I'm not even exaggerating. It was a little dark, but it was redeeming in the end. And oh my God, I don't even know if I have words to describe it.
Well, it was it's funny because we started writing that film 6 years ago. It was a very different film. And in fact, it was the film we were going to shoot before we did The Land, but it wasn't coming together at all. And so I said, forget it. And so I wrote the biggest piece of The Land in one weekend, and Mary said, that's the one. So we then, spent the rest of the time working on it. And then it was like, okay, what are we going to do next? We wrote 2 other scripts, one which would take too long for us to shoot, and another one I'm afraid of right now. I'm not ready to shoot it. And so we went back to the other film, which is the one that we're going to be shooting, which is called State of Grace. And we changed it completely, and it's much better.
It is much better. Yeah. And it's interesting, if you look at our films, we had one of the film critics mention that we do not have bad guys in our films. The enemy is usually a life circumstance, our own poor decision making, circumstances beyond our control sometimes. And I think that that's better for
how many of us have serial killers chasing us?
And
nobody, right?
But for some people, that is their strong suit. That's what they really, and that's not what Steve and I are trying to do. I mean, we're trying to make films that make a difference. So we really want to meet people where they are, and hopefully after they've seen the movie, they have a little more strength or a little more perspective that can help them move forward.
I will say with Terminal and State of Grace, they're both very real. Like I could imagine someone being in that position, and it wasn't like a far-fetched idea, and it's things that people struggle with every day, and it's bringing that to light. And I don't want to give away anything, but
well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's
tell
good.
me more.
Yeah.
Who was it? It's Samuel Clemens. Mark Twain said, "I can live for 2 months on a compliment."
Yes, but I
in Hollywood, you can die of
right. So my question about your movies and your films and your show is, so is Terminal, is it a show with episodes, or is it supposed to be like a mini series or a film?
It's a great question. It was conceived from the beginning to be a mini series.
Okay.
And, I knew I wanted to make a mini series. We love mini series. I mean, most of the mini series we watch, BBC, a lot of those are just terrific things. Yeah. And so I knew I wanted to make something that was much more in depth than you get with a 90-minute film or a 2-hour film even. I really wanted to be able to dig into the personalities, motivations of people. And it was it's 3 hours long, but it was intended to be 4 hours long. And we chopped an hour out of it after we shot it. So it was just like, no, we don't need that. No, we don't want that. That was not good. So we chopped it down to 3, but it broke it into the to the 6 half-hour episodes. When it's interesting though, when it played on KCPT, they asked for us to put it into 2 sections. So part 1 and a part 2. When it played on KTWU in Topeka, they wanted all 6 episodes. So it just depends on, you know, who's showing it. I personally think it was meant to be a series, and it's got really nice breaks. That you know, okay, finish with that. Now we can decompress a little bit and come back and watch the next one. So
yeah, definitely.
But the other films are just that. They're films. The other ones are running at 90 minutes. This next one, I'm sure State of Grace is going to come in right about 2 hours.
Awesome. So you mentioned some of them are or were on Amazon, and some of them have streamed or have been shown on like KCPT. Where can we find your films? How do we watch them?
Well, Amazon is the source.
Okay.
And right now, Chasing Angel, The Land, and Terminal, excuse me, lie, that's a lie. Terminal is Chasing Angel.
Yes.
Chasing Angel, The Tree, and The Land are all on Amazon. And the best way to find it is to type in, you know, Stephen Pruitt or Mary Pruitt, and it'll pop right up on Amazon. Again, the Tree has been the big seller because it's such a sweet story with, I mean, just if you're not in good tears at the end of The Tree, you have no heart.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. So that's where you can find them there. They periodically do play on PBS stations. They played actually all over the Midwest, but you never know when those are going to show up again. But so Amazon is your friend if you want to see a Pruitt feature film.
Awesome.
We also do have copies of works in progress still in boxes. So
That's right.
we do have that. If that,
Honey,
if that
we
is
can't
something-
talk about that's our children's inheritance.
I know.
You know,
I know.
we're gonna, kids, and this is for you. These of our first movie.
Yes, yes. And you know, I just want to interject here, you know, because Steve says The Tree is the best seller. It is. However, I believe that The Land is going to do extremely well. The problem is, or shall I say, during a pandemic, people are going to gravitate to one type of film, and then under other circumstances, they may gravitate to another. Plus, The Tree actually has had longer to be out there and gain traction, word of mouth, you know, that sort of thing. And I believe that once we're able to get out and start being in person and doing interviews, this is lovely to be able to do this Zoom interview, but once we're able to promote The Land, then we'll be able to do that as well. So it's an excellent film, and our lead actors are just phenomenal. So that's Herman Johansson and Kathleen Warfel. Herman went to Hollywood. He's out on the West Coast now, but Kathleen's still here. We have some beautiful talent here in the Kansas City area, and it's overlooked. So
yeah, the one of the critics, you know, gave a 3.5. Both The Tree and The Land got 3.5 out of 4 stars from he's a national film critic, and his opening line on the review of The Land was, "I will likely watch The Land 1,000 times just to watch 1,000 times again just to watch Herman Johansson's mesmerizing performance."
he is.
Wow.
He was amazing. You know, he'd been earlier in Terminal. He played an auto mechanic in Terminal. He played an auto mechanic in The Tree.
He goes, "Do I ever get anything?
Yeah, no, you're
Do I ever get out of the garage?"
And I had from the get-go had Herman in mind for the lead of The Land. When I got the idea for the film, I knew I wanted Herman to play it. I was hopeful he would, and he did. And then he suggested Kathleen Warfel to play his wife in the film. She was fantastic. Their son is played by Davis Durock, who is, I think, one of the great young actors in this area. I hope he doesn't move away. Obviously, I hope he makes it really big and ends up in Hollywood or wherever else
And
he
promotes
wants.
The Land.
And promotes our films.
Yes.
And star him. But you know, it's just great to be able to work with folks here in town that are really terrific actors, but they're not household names, and they likely never will be. It's just great to make a real piece of art with those kind of folks, and they've been all really easy to work with too.
Yeah.
Good. That's great. So I have a kind of personal question.
Oh, dear.
Going back to your first movie. What, how did you fund it, I guess, is my question. Like, did you invest?
Okay. So now this is why I'm executive producer.
Okay.
This is really it. Because
Yeah, okay. That's what I was wondering.
Not our first movie. Our first movie, actually, I did have an inheritance, a bit of an inheritance. And we took that and we bought, I won't say how many thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but that's one thing that we had the advantage over perhaps some other independent filmmakers that don't have a little nest egg or something to start off with. We own all of our own equipment. And the difference there is, so if we don't know how to use it right away, we can keep trying until we get it right. And that's what obviously digital format does. You know, if we had film stock, we'd be out of there's no way we could do this. But really what we had that worked to our advantage is time and equipment. And of course, just the insatiable desire to get this thing done and to do it right. And I think a lot of filmmakers, you know, they come up against, you know, some problems, and then it's like, oh, what the heck, it's not worth it. But that was never really an option for us. So now, so that's our first film. So and we did have some small investors, incredibly important. I mean, I may say small, but nothing is small. It may be small just in comparison to the entire budget, but not small as far as what it has done.
Allowed us to eat.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's our first film.
Yeah. Basically, it's when you're a filmmaker, you have to decide what kind of film you're trying to make. And in our case, the only thing that matters to me is Hollywood quality. It either looks like Hollywood, it's as good as Hollywood, or it's not. And so we're using the best equipment, the same things they use, the same cameras, the same lights, the same sound gear that they use to make the biggest and best Hollywood movies. And the fact that we have that gear, I think gives us a little bit of an edge. But the main thing is there's this famous phrase that goes good, fast, cheap. Pick any two.
Yes,
right?
You can't have all three.
Right, you can't. And in our case, I insisted upon good. We didn't have a lot of money to spend compared to what Hollywood does. And we're making feature films for less than most people, than any national commercial. Right? A national commercial runs between $500,000 and $1 million. And we're not even spending close to that making an hour-and-a-half movie that looks just like Hollywood. So we take the time necessary to make it the best we can possibly be. In some cases, I remember in Terminal, there was one scene we shot 3 times because I just wasn't happy with it. It didn't work. It did it again. It still didn't work. Did it a 3rd time. I still didn't like it. And I just cut it. I decided, you know, I don't think we really need this scene anyway. I think there's somebody trying to tell us something. Let's just not have that scene.
Right.
So, but that's it. And I think the other thing is that so many people when they're young filmmakers kind of do it for fun. This is not fun for us. This is really, really hard work. Fun for me would be, you know, kicking back on the beach. I really love the beach. So when we're making a movie, you know, there are parts of it that are more fun than others, but the actual shooting, when we're actually shooting with the actors, that's not fun for us. Neither one of us enjoy that part because it's so engrossing. It's so difficult physically. It's so difficult mentally. It's so stressful in every way. I'm just really glad when it's over, and then I can edit, and I like editing. That's fun. Then I get to do the color, and I like to do the sound somewhat, not as much as the other ones. But we love writing. I mean, we love finding locations. So
well, and I think one of the reasons that is, and I don't have exactly the same perspective that Steve has with respect to being on set, but then as director, basically it all comes down to him. So he's got a lot of responsibility. The entire production, he's calling the shots. So there's a lot more pressure on him than there is on me in that respect. But one of the things, you know, when Steve mentions all the other post-production things that he really enjoys doing, that's the thing with shooting. is you just have to be ready for everything to not go right.
Mhm.
And that is really hard to keep your perspective and your focus, because you know what you want to have happen. And then all of a sudden you've got an air show that you didn't count on.
That actually happened in Works in Progress. The ending gallery scene had to be shot twice.
Yes.
Once because we had no idea the Wheeler Air Show was taking place and jets were screaming overhead. And so like, okay, well, so much for that one. Now, we did it a million times better the second time around.
Yes, we did.
Another case, there was in the case of The Land, which is shot out in the country because it's farmland.
Mhm.
A train stops on the tracks right across a cross thing. So the ding, 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 it's dinging the whole time we're shooting the scene. It's just like, how long is this going to go on? And a lady said it could be days.
Yeah.
So we did it anyway. Now we were
Yeah.
fortunate that we're using lavalier microphones and that we couldn't hear the dings, but it was just a nightmare.
And I have to tell you, that scene was made better by that train in the background. So when you watch The Land, you look at the cornfield scene and you look at that awesome train, and it's like we couldn't have scheduled that. So it's, you know, serendipity. Sometimes you think things aren't gonna. Now the air show that was not helpful.
Nothing good comes from a jet screaming overhead if you're not making Top Gun. But outside of our budget, I'm afraid.
Yeah, definitely. So you've kind of talked about the ups and the downs of filmmaking, but each of you.
Only a few of them. Well, we can go on the downs.
I know. But if you could pick one thing, what is each of yours, or both, if it's the same thing, your favorite part of filmmaking? Like, what's your absolute number one?
I know what Mary's going to say. Go ahead.
You do?
Yes.
I'm curious. What do you think it is?
She's going to say writing.
Yeah, writing.
Okay.
Writing. And for Steve, he would say color.
No, that's not it. No.
Editing.
It's when I lay in the score, the finished cut, and now I'm laying in the score, the music, and I can't tell you the number of times when I'm throwing in the score here and I'm hearing it for the first time with the music, watching it, you know, and I'll just cry. It's just like, it's just so beautiful.
And Steve's not even writing the score. I mean, that's just basically when somebody else's, you know, work, it comes together.
It becomes a movie for me at the point where the score is in there, and it's like, now it's a movie.
Yeah.
And now it's beautiful. And now I'm crying. Yeah. It happens every time.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And for A State of Grace, it's going to be, you know, tears all around. So.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that. It's a powerful story.
Yeah. I love writing too. And basically, I heard Kevin Wilmot say this. Although I heard him say it after I had said it, and I think it's probably just a factoid, as it were. You make 3 movies. Every movie is made 3 times. When you write it, when you shoot it, and when you edit it. And the 3 are not the same. Yeah. It's amazing how different things can be. What we learned with Works in Progress and then with Terminal, and we haven't learned anything beyond that as far as this goes, but nowadays we only shoot what we write what we think we're going to shoot. Before, we write stuff and we think, oh, that's going to be great, and then we end up cutting half of it, and we already shot it, so we wasted all that time and money.
Yeah,
you could write a scene from here to here. Oops, here we go. Here to here. And end up just using from here to here, or from here to here, or sometimes here and here, or sometimes just there. That's why it's so different. And it takes it's recognition. What is it that makes it better? And I think that's why we are not wedded to anything. When I get in the editing suite, when I'm editing a film, I don't care what I shot. I care about one thing: making that film to be the best it can possibly be. And heck, I cut myself out of almost all of myself out of Terminal. I had a longer scene. I'm no good. I cut myself out. I just want to be enough in such that I needed that, right? I needed that part. Cut the rest of me out. I cut Mary out once.
Oh, so, that's a good thing.
You know, we're just interested in making it the best it can be, regardless of what our initial, you know, preconceptions were about it.
And you know, something else on set, you know, Steve's talking about the 3 different versions of the film. on set, Steve knows exactly what he wants. But one of the things that I love about his direction is he also listens attentively to the actors. If they have a better suggestion, he'll go with it. And that may even mean that he's, sort of reordering things a little bit and just changing the emphasis. But I really like that about his approach, is that he allows the actors access to make this character truly their character. Now, the only thing he asks is, when the final decision is made that this is what we're going to do, that everybody's on board and we go forward. So,
right. Can't be fighting about that. Once the decision is made, I definitely want. There was a great moment in The Land where our lead actor, again, Herman Johansson, he says, Steve, if you looked out this, we were shooting a different scene. And he goes, did you happen to look out the window here? And I said, what are you talking about? So I go upstairs, look out the window. It's just like, oh my God, we're going to get that. And so it took us several hours, because we were in such a tiny, cramped spot, to get a shot of him by this window. And it turns out to be, my hair just stood on end, literally thinking about it, a wonderful foreshadowing of what is about to happen in the film. Here he goes again, literally, it is standing on end. You can't see it, but I can tingling all over. It was so great that this, in point of fact, happened. As I tell the actors, I know what I have for my idea of how this should go, but bring me yours. I want to see yours, because yours may be better. If I turns out I don't like it, I'll tell you and we'll do it my way. But always give me your conception of this thing, because that's, sometimes that's where really the rubber hits the road to make something really, really great.
Yeah. So let's flip it. And what is the hardest part or your least favorite part of filmmaking? One thing.
Working with my husband.
Oh.
Well,
many a student has said the exact same thing.
Yeah. No, and
I hate Dr. Pruitt.
No. And I'll be succinct with this. I don't like working with my husband, because that's a different relationship. Yeah. However, I can remove myself on set and I can work for Never Too Late Productions. In this case, the director is Stephen W. Pruitt, and I can work for him. But I truly do switch hats when I come on set, because it is difficult to switch and to go from co-creator, co-everything, to needing to, just do whatever needs to be done in order to get the production made right.
Yeah.
So that would be mine.
Mine, easily, I just hate shooting. I just really hate being on set. It is the worst part of every film. And the main reason is because it is the place where the platonic ideal falls apart. It's kind of like, I can conceive of the perfect scene, but something is always going to go wrong. It's Murphy's Law. I have every intention of making a perfect scene. It can never turn out better than what I already had in mind. Okay. I had a perfect scene in my head. So the only way it can go is down. It's just like, okay, well, I didn't expect rain today. I really needed it to be sunshiny. I hate that. Or it is too bright today. Or worse, it is cloudy today. So sometimes it's bright and sometimes it's cloudy, whereas the clouds go overhead, which just screws up the exposure to no end on the camera. It is physically difficult. It is long, hard hours. It's just grueling. Again, it's not everyone doesn't shoot films the way we do. We work with the tiniest crew.
Yeah, we do.
It's Mary, me, and 4 other people making a film that looks like Hollywood. Wow. And because we're doing all of those things, our fingerprints are all over the film, but it's a lot of work.
It is. Yeah.
So that's the worst part.
Yeah. And how do you guys, since you do work together and you are married and it's a lot of work, surprise.
We are coming up on 40 years.
40 years.
Wow, congratulations. Yeah. So how do you maintain like a work-life balance? I mean, when you guys come home, you eat dinner, are you in movie mode or?
It's so funny when we're shooting. Now, we don't do this normally. Okay, this is not something we ever do, but when we're shooting, we are so exhausted at the end of the night. We come home and we turn on the TV, and honest to God, we watch forensic files about who murdered whom. I mean,
And it's always the wife.
yeah,
It's always
the husband or the wife killed somebody. So that's what we end up watching. But
briefly, and then we go to sleep.
And then we go to bed. It's just like,
Yeah.
this is horrible. That's
No,
it.
we really do talk about it quite a bit.
Right.
Now, we do try and step back occasionally and say, okay, no move. And that's something when we're with family, we do not discuss movie, because there for a while, it was just, infiltrating every single conversation. And that's just wrong. We needed to be able to draw boundaries. And so when we're family, we're with family. Now, when it's just the two of us, then no, we're probably talking film.
Well, the other thing is we go for walks every day, and oftentimes we'll discuss the plots, or typically we're talking about problems, and that is, I think we have a problem, so let's fix this particular problem. And so we talk about, what are the ways that we can fix this? And then we come back, okay, who wants to take a first crack at this? Well, exactly. Mary, why don't you start there, and then I'll rework it. And so we just bounce the file back and forth, neutral Switzerland being the main floor of the house. We'll bounce those things back and forth until okay, it's good, we got it, it's done. And so what you just read was the fourth version of the film. It's actually had literally thousands of tiny revisions from the third version. And I think we'll go one last revision. So if you have any comments to tell us about changes, please let us know after the
just
after
email
the
them to us.
And then then we have the other films. We're thinking about those, but we're always thinking about the holes, thinking about the problems. How can we fix this problem? How can I make this shot work? What gear do I need to be able to get a shot like this? So that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, that's what you guys like to do.
Well, apparently.
Yeah.
I think it's insanity, personally.
Okay. So, but now we have two grandbabies. Okay.
I was just going to ask that.
Baby in Canada, Pender Harbor. And then we have one right here in Leawood. And, this is getting tough for me, because when we go to shoot, it's like, I'm not, usually we just sort of go into a different kind of a world, and we're kind of cut off from a lot of our friends and family because we're just working quite a bit. But I want to see those grandbabies. So we're gonna have to work something.
You're gonna have to decide what's more important. What's more important, this film or those grandkids?
Yeah. I'm sorry, sweetie, but you're gonna come out the loser on that.
Yeah.
So so that's gonna be a little tricky, but I'm very excited about it. Yeah.
Congratulations. So that's kind of was my question, was about your daughters. Did you start Never Too Late Productions before they graduated high school, or was it after?
After, way after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really, one of the reasons that
I think both of them graduated from college.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the reasons we could do this is, as Steve said, when we were in Hollywood, there was one of the post-production specialists who had worked on Works in Progress asked Steve, he goes, this movie is so great. What took you so long? And he was like, we had other priorities. Yeah. We were raising our children. We were making sure we had sufficient funds to send them to college. And then we helped out with grad school. And so they were, by the time we started, one of our girls was finished with, or she was just getting ready to go into grad school, but they both graduated from college. So we did not have that because we wanted to make sure that when they graduated that they had no student debt.
Yeah.
that was going to be our present to them. So
yeah. Awesome.
It worked out.
Good.
Not the parents, but
parents are deep
So what did your daughters think when you started making films? Did they have opinions, or were they just like,
you know what, I can honestly say Works in Progress, our younger daughter who had just graduated from Wheaton, she was living with us, she was not happy about it, because Steve and I fought a lot during that film. It was just it was not fun. It was not fun. I would not recommend somebody try that. However, that being said, we did emerge on the other side, still married and still committed to both marriage and movie making. So we do have that. So I think Barry would say that it was disaster. But then
she really thought.
No. But after the first film, I think both girls were really, quite frankly, excited about the fact that their parents were not just like, tuning out and just turning on TV. They were doing something.
Our daughters told us, and our daughters' friends, is that you get the coolest parents ever. It's like, okay, I'm nuts, and Mary happened to be nuts enough to go along with me to do this stuff. I guess what it boils down to.
Yeah. So they're very supportive now. I know that they know how much work it takes, and really, quite frankly, Becky worked with us. Our older daughter, she worked with us on Terminal / Chasing Angel. And Barry, bless her heart, she's been an extra in so many different scenes and so many different movies that, you could do Where Was Waldo and look for our daughter, and that in and of itself would take some time. So
Becky was our one of our 2 great employees of Terminal, and she saved our bacon a couple of times. I remember one time we were shooting at Shawnee Mission East High School, and she said, "Dad, I think you need to you do this." And I said, no, it doesn't matter. And she goes, "I really think you need to do this." And it doesn't matter. And finally she goes, "Dad, there's a problem. I think you need to think about this." And I started thinking about it. I said, "How could you let this happen?" It was, she was right, but she caught it in time, and I wouldn't have caught it. But she was, and she appears in the film several times too. So,
and that I'm glad he brought up that she was, one of our 2 best employees, our very best employee, the one who's been with us the longest, and who we cannot imagine making movies without, is Michael Lopez.
The gentleman here in town. He was
phenomenal.
He was his first real film experience was working on Works in Progress with us, and he's been with us on every film since. And Michael, if you're watching this, we want you on State of Grace.
Yeah, no, Michael has gone from he's done everything. I mean, he truly is indispensable. And we can't say enough great things about him, and we're always pleased when he's able to work on other projects. We just don't want him to work on other projects when we want him to work on ours.
Right, exactly. That's the rule, Michael.
That's a state of grace, put that out in the universe.
Yes.
Exactly.
Awesome. So we've talked about your films. We've kind of talked about State of Grace a little bit. And when did you say that you were to start shooting for that? Was it
May 15th of 2022?
Okay, and that's like a hard, that you're going to do it no matter what, right?
Well, it's possible I'll be dead, in which case I don't know. Maybe I'll be making it in heaven or hell. That's not sure which one filmmaking really is. That's the plan.
Yeah. Well, here's the issue. We're SAG, so I mean, we abide by SAG rules, and
she may not know what SAG is, but it stands for the Screen Actors Guild. And that's
we're
the union for all of the Hollywood actors. So
and so you have to go by their rules. And if we wanted to shoot this past year, it was going to add $60,000 to our production costs, and that doesn't even give us anything more as far as location or actors that we can hire, or crew. That's just for COVID testing. And that we just couldn't do that. So yes, we're definitely going to do it. If the bubonic plague doesn't hit.
Right.
So,
right.
Fingers crossed.
Exactly. Now it'll take 2 months to shoot. And in the past we shot 2 months, 2.5 months, 4 months, 3 months.
2 months is a good time. That's what I want.
2 months, 2 months. I would like to keep it to 2 months as well. And I think with some of the new gear we purchased here recently,
we've got some phenomenal
I think we're gonna be way ahead of where we had been in the past. So
that's good.
These 2 new cameras that we just bought, I think are gonna really speed things up. And that'll be good because it'll give us a month where we're not shooting in the summer. And I kind of like to go to Florida and stay on the beach.
Yes. Definitely. Well, I think that's all of my questions. Is there anything that you guys want to add that we didn't touch on, or?
Yeah, one, if there's anybody out there that would like to take part in helping to make truly wonderful, redemptive films come to life here in Kansas City, please get in touch with us because we can help you.
Do you want to give them an email? For that?
No. But I'm sure we not only can we help you, but we surely need your help. Making independent films is, it's incredibly inexpensive compared to what they spend in Hollywood. But for a husband and wife team, we're no longer able to fund it. So we have to rely on the kindness of strangers, as it were. And we've actually run into some of these people who, one time we were, one of our films was showing at a theater. They loved it. It was works in progress. And they loved it so much, they came up to us afterwards. We were in the midst of shooting Terminal at the time. And they said, we love what you're doing. Is there anything we can do to help? And I said, well, we're broke. I don't know how we're going to make payroll. And they wrote us a check for $10,000 right there.
Wow.
And this happened several times. And that's what we need to do to keep making these things, because although our motto of our company is making movies to make a difference. And that's what we're going to continue to do right here in Kansas City, right here in the heartland.
Yeah. And I find if you're passionate about something, most of the time other people are too. So
I hope that's the case.
Yeah, so definitely good luck to you guys on filming State of Grace. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and tell us about your production company. So with that, I'm going to end the live stream.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, thank you guys. I hope we stay in touch, and I know Lanita's a great contact, so I'm going to thank her for setting me up with you guys. So
yeah, well, no, really appreciate it. But if you do have any thoughts about the script, we really need to hear them, because we want to revise it one last time and then go with it. So
okay,
where we live.
I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I will think about it, because that script's going to be burned in my brain forever. So
okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
A lot of fun.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.